When you think about Australian history, what's the first date that pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably 1788, right? The arrival of the first fleet. But what if I told you that story is missing a huge, fascinating chapter? That for centuries before any European ships arrived, a powerful Indonesian kingdom had a deep, game-changing relationship with the continent. Well, today we're diving into that forgotten history, connecting a sophisticated sultanate with the shores of pre-colonial Australia.
So where does our story begin? Not in a dusty old history book, but with a series of clues, a real puzzle, scattered right across the coastline of Arnhem Land in Australia's Northern Territory. For years, researchers kept finding things that, well, they just didn't add up. They didn't fit the standard story of a completely isolated continent. And we're not talking about a few random artifacts here. These clues all pointed to a long-term, organized presence, a group of people who were clearly not European and not from the local Aboriginal communities. So the big question became, who on earth were these visitors, and what were they doing in Australia for so long?
Okay, so let's look at the evidence because it is just remarkable. You've got ancient rock art showing these big, unique sailing ships called prows. You find whole groves of tamarind trees that aren't native to Australia. Their fruit was used to flavor rice. Even the local Yolngu languages have words borrowed from another culture, words like rupiah for money. And when archaeologists started digging, they found pottery, metal fishhooks, clay pipes, all signs of a culture from far, far away. To solve this mystery, we actually have to leave Australia. We need to wind the clock way back and travel northwest across the Arafura Sea to the Indonesian island of Sulawesi. Because the answer to this whole puzzle lies in the rise of an incredible maritime power, the Sultanate of Gowa. Now, Gowa didn't just pop up as a seafaring empire overnight, not at all. It started around 1300 as an inland kingdom, its wealth built entirely on farming rice. But a series of really smart, ambitious rulers realized the real future wasn't in the soil, it was on the sea. So they strategically fought their way to the coast, and then, in a brilliant move, reunified with a breakaway kingdom called Tallo, merging them into one powerhouse built for maritime trade. And that combination, that was their superpower. Think about it. Gwar had the people, the food, the raw agricultural strength. Talok, its twin, had the coastal know-how, the ships, and the focus on trade routes. When they came together, it was this perfect fusion of land and sea power, and it just set the stage for an absolute economic explosion. And explode it did. Through the 16th and 17th centuries, Goa and its main port, Makassar, didn't just become some regional player. No, it became a genuine global hub for commerce, a name known to traders all across Asia and Europe. The key to understanding this is the word entrepot. All it means is that Makassar became this bustling international marketplace. It was a place where goods from all over the world, especially those priceless spices from the Spice Islands, were brought in, bought, sold, and shipped back out again. It was, and I'm not kidding, kind of like the Amazon warehouse of its day. And just to give you a sense of scale here, at its height in the 1600s, Makassar was a thriving city of up to 100,000 people. To put that into perspective, at that very same time, the first British settlements in North America were just tiny villages. This was a massive, cosmopolitan metropolis. Goa's success wasn't just luck. It was a deliberate and frankly revolutionary open-for-business strategy. You have to remember, this was the age of monopoly. The Dutch East India Company, the VOC, was using extreme violence to try and control the entire spice trade. Goa did the exact opposite. They said, everyone is welcome here. They created fair, standard measurements, they protected traders, and essentially built a free trade zone. This didn't just make them rich, it made them a direct threat to the whole European colonial project. So this massive trading hub created an insatiable demand for new products. You always need something new to sell on the world market, and that demand is what pushed Gowa's sailors, the Makassans, further and further south on incredible annual voyages that brought them right back to Australia. The destination had a name. They called it Mirage, which meant the wild country, what we now know as Arnhem Land, and they were after a very specific prize, the humble sea cucumber, or trepang. Doesn't sound like much, but in the markets of China it was worth a fortune as both a delicacy and a medicine. And listen, this wasn't some casual fishing trip. Oh no, the Makassans set up camps every single year and ran a full-scale industrial operation right on Australian beaches. They'd harvest thousands of trepang, boil them in these huge iron pots, then dry and smoke them in temporary huts before sailing back home on the monsoon winds, their boats loaded with cargo for the Chinese traders waiting in Makassar. But here is the most crucial part of the whole story. They did not do this alone. This was a deep, collaborative partnership with the local Yolngu people. The Macassans brought things like metal tools, cloth, and new technology like the dugout canoe. In return, the Yolngu gave them permission to fish, helped with the labor, and traded their own goods. It was a genuine two-way street. And this is what makes this part of history so profound. Unlike the colonial encounters that would come later, this relationship was based on mutual respect and mutual benefit. As anthropologist John Bradley puts it, the trade was fair, there were no race policies. For the Yolngu people, this was a golden age of interaction with the outside world. But, as you can probably guess, Gowa's incredible success and its open defiance of European trade monopolies couldn't last forever. Its very existence, its prosperity, put it on a direct collision course with the most powerful and ruthless corporation on the planet at the time, the Dutch East India Company. Between 1666 and 1669, that tension finally exploded into the Makassar War. At its heart, this was a brutal, no-holds-barred fight for economic control. The Dutch wanted a complete and total monopoly on spices, and Gowa, the great champion of free trade, was the last major obstacle standing in their way. Gowa's leader, Sultan Hassanuddin, led a fierce and heroic resistance. But the Dutch had a trump card. They formed an alliance with Gowa's longtime local enemy, the Bugis Kingdom of Bone. That combination of European sea power and a local army attacking on the ground, well, it proved to be just too much. The end came in 1667 with the Treaty of Bongaya. And the terms, they were absolutely devastating. Gowa's famous open door was slammed shut. All other traders were kicked out, its lands were handed over to the Dutch, and the once mighty Sultanate was basically reduced to a puppet state. The Golden Age was officially over. That treaty crippled Gowa's power, and over the next couple of centuries, those great Traipang fleets that sailed to Australia got smaller and smaller. But the end of the voyages was not the end of the story, not even close. The legacy of these centuries of contact was already woven into the very fabric of Northern Australia. The new Australian government officially banned the trade in 1907. But you can't just erase hundreds of years of history. The language, the technology, the metal axe alone completely changed daily life. The art, the stories, and even the family and genetic connections. All of it remains today as this powerful testament to a shared past. And if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's how this history is remembered by the Yolngu people themselves. It is not seen as an invasion. It's not a period of exploitation. It's remembered fondly as a positive era, a time of fair trade, of exciting new ideas and respectful partnership, all before the much more traumatic arrival of the British. So that leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? The story of Gowa and Mariji isn't just some curious footnote in a textbook. It completely challenges that old idea of an isolated continent just waiting to be discovered. It shows us that for centuries, Australia was already a part of the world, connected through complex and respectful networks of trade, culture, and family. It's a history that really does change how you see the map.